Velma.
Hey, Arlyce.
What you doing?
Just listening.
Do what?
Everybody,
Doing what?
just talking.
I talk, you talk, he talks, she talks, we talk, they talk. Everybody here talks.
Ain't
Every day.
nobody listening.
Conversation.
Nobody
We want you to watch our stations. We'll exceed your expectation every day. Conversation with Velma and Arlyce.
Hello and welcome to Everyday Conversations with Velma and Arlyce. I'm Arlyce Anderson here with my co-host Velma Jackson Wilkin. Our subject matter today is a continuation of last week's program where we were discussing the poor. And today we're going to talk about the people who are born poor and the impact it has when you're born poor. The difference it makes for you when you're born poor. And to also really touch on the people who feel strongly that each of us should be responsible for our own lives and our own success. And I feel very strongly that a large part of our population that is currently poor was born poor. And the hardest thing to do is to just pull yourself up from that and then to become a happy and productive member of our society, which I feel that everybody in the United States has a right to do, especially considering just how much resources, how much we have here. It's a shame that there should be any of us that end up in such poverty as we have in our country today.
And yes, Arlyce, today we are going to talk about being poor. There are so many aspects to a family or a child's life when they're born poor, and so many things to take into consideration that they don't have. And they can't get a better life unless some of those things change. So what we want to talk about today is some of the things that really impact people who are poor or born poor.
Right.
The first of those that I want to tackle is lack of resources or limited resources. And we all know that there are enough resources out there for housing, medical, and food. But why doesn't it get to some of those neighborhoods where people are poor or born poor? So my question to you is, when we talk about lack or talk about limited resources, what does that bring to your mind?
Good question, Velma, because when I reflect back on where my childhood growing up in Detroit, I'd say one of the biggest deterrents or the biggest hurdle was education. And education was very important in my family. My mother and my father and my aunts and uncles, it was all about get your education, get your education, get your education. And so we were very good students. However, we did not have the best schools in Detroit. We did not have the best resources. And all of that made a huge difference. And today, I think that's one of the most critical aspects of our whole institution,
Right.
is trying to make sure that I don't care what the issues are with a child, that we address that issue and give that child every opportunity to have a chance to grow and to be able to just live out their most possibility, their most
Absolutely.
possible aspirations,
Absolutely.
whatever that is.
Mhm.
And I think we think that you should have just certain people, certain abilities should
Right.
be the ones that have the opportunity.
Mhm.
And I absolutely believe that it's imperative that whatever your ability is, that we all get a chance to sit at the table and make decisions and be able to share the resources of this wonderful,
And what about-
wonderful country.
Right, and what about the fact that, if you're in a poor area with poor children, most of them don't get an opportunity also to go to preschool, whereas in some of the more affluent areas they do. So right away,
Yeah.
those kids are already above
Right.
where our poor kids are. How do you think, going to preschool early will help to give that poor child an upper hand and help them get out of that situation? Because if you're poor and you're in an area and you're not going to school, you're not learning. Whereas the more affluent people are over here and they're learning, even
Right.
at 3 years old.
That's right.
How can we put more resources into those areas and so that these kids be able to go to school?
I think the first thing that has to happen is you have to care enough to say everybody matters.
That's right.
Whatever your abilities are, whatever your resources are, everybody matters just as much. And if you believe that, then you will willingly say, let me help. I think we need to help. You will willingly push for change and help. Here in New Jersey, where I live, it's like there's a war on education. It's like a war on education. And the children suffer because of that. And today we're talking about being born poor. So when you're born poor, yes, you're in a family that is probably under a lot of stress.
That's right.
And when you have, and if you're poor, you also have a job that is usually doesn't have a lot of flexibility.
That's right.
So it also usually, because I know my sister who lives in Detroit still and has these challenges, you don't get to pick your hours. So you might work 5 hours on Monday and then 10 hours on Tuesday and then, have to come in on Saturday for 3 hours. That is disruptive to anybody. And so, yes, care enough to say there is a difference in how these people are living. So when you're looking at trying to take care of these children, in New Jersey, we do have preschool. But like I say, everything is under attack.
Yes,
So it
that's
is
right.
imperative that we have preschool for every child because that's the only way, and it's proven that is a way that we can start to really make a difference when you can make a difference. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yes.
Make a difference when you can make a difference, and that's really when you can. Just like when you're playing tennis and they say, oh gosh, it's better if I'm teaching somebody who hasn't already learned how to do it the wrong way,
Yes.
So just saying, let them have a chance to learn it the right way.
Now, what about also on the health aspect of it? Because again, a lot of poor people suffer. Yes, there are all kinds of programs out there that can get them medical care, but when you're born poor, you don't go to the hospitals. You don't go to the doctors as much as you ought to when your children are sick
right.
or you're sick, and
That's
that's
right.
usually because sometimes you don't have the money or
Right.
you don't have the transportation to even get there.
Very
So
good.
speak a little bit about that if you care to. How does that impact a family that's really born poor, and some of the implications that it have later on in their lives?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's another thing that's under attack. I mean,
That's
healthcare is
right.
under attack.
That's
And
right.
when we're saying, which we're talking about, being born poor,
Yes.
there are certain environmental issues that I feel are critical that affect you more
That's right.
when you are born into a poor environment.
Right.
And one of the things is you are more susceptible to be in a toxic environment than if you weren't born poor. Because the areas where the cleanups are most needed that don't
Yes.
happen are in the poor neighborhoods.
Right.
And so you're exposed to lead poisoning. And that's a big deal as we look at Flint, Michigan. And I'm from Michigan. But it's not just Flint, Michigan, it's a lot of other places also. But when you're exposed to lead and you're a child, that affects your ability to do anything for the rest of your life.
Right.
And so no one's wanting to help you when you're 25 and you're still struggling. So help the children If you help the children, then you can make sure that you are usurping problems that might occur
Yes.
later. We have this attack on health insurance, which I'm middle class,
Very well.
okay? I'm middle class. And so I'm not, I can buy my insurance. And I understand I had a great year last year. I did not get sick. That's a great year.
That's a great year, right?
So what that means is I paid into my insurance and they didn't have to pay out money for me.
Right.
And that means I had an opportunity to pay for other people. That's what insurance is. That's what happens. So a healthy year for me meant I was paying for other people. I want to pay for poor people. I don't want to just pay for people that were rich enough to afford insurance. So when you go and break your leg, you could have paid cash.
Yeah.
I'm paying into that because you have insurance, because you could afford insurance, so you don't have to pay for yours.
Right.
I want to pay for the poor people. I want them to be on the insurance. So when I'm healthy and I'm paying in, I want it spread out to them too.
There is no lack. There is just insensitive people.
That's right.
There's
There
no
is
lack.
no lack.
There
There
is
is
no
no
lack.
lack of food. There's no lack of housing,
Thank
as
you.
you said. There's
Right.
no lack of, really, the lack that is created is, I have to say, it is deliberate.
I believe
That
that.
is deliberate.
I believe that.
And
I
I
believe
don't
that.
accept it.
I
And that's
believe
why I really wanted to talk about this subject, because I
Yes.
want to be
Yes.
one of the voices
Yes.
that push back on that
Right.
and say, I don't accept that. I do not accept that as
Right.
making sense to me.
It doesn't make sense.
And we can do better.
Yes, and that's why I started out by
Yes.
saying when we first started that there is enough hospitals,
You're
there's
right.
enough food, there's
That's right.
enough housing. Why is there lack for poor people? There should be lack for no one. Arlyce.
No one.
Because we certainly have enough resources out here. If people just open up their hearts.
Yeah, so
And
that's
dig
the
deep.
problem. So let's look at that.
Yes.
So there's two different ways of thinking.
Yes.
You can think of individualism, where you're feeling that people should be able to manage their own success.
Right.
And then you have the people who feel that all people in need should be helped. If they need
Yes.
help, they should be helped. It's those who are the individualists that I have to say, please take a moment and really get to understand individual issues that a person has.
Right.
I wish you could have more empathy,
Mm-hmm.
because with empathy, just being able to say, when you are born poor, which most of the people who are currently born poor most of the people who are currently poor were born poor.
Yes.
If that is the case, then how can you really say that's an even playing field? Do you not know how difficult it is to come out of a neighborhood like that and survive?
Right.
My sister, who is a year older, stayed in Detroit, continued to work in Detroit, and I still say of no fault of her own. By staying in Detroit and being in an environment where the resources were just less, that she did not have an opportunity to be able to manage the pitfalls that we
Yes.
all run into in our lives. Her pitfalls were just like anybody else's. It's just being able to recover when you live in that environment. For instance, her husband passed away. He was sick for a long time with an illness, and he passed away. During the time that he was sick, she got sick herself, and she ended up having to have brain surgery. As a result of that, she lost her job. And then she couldn't work for a while. Now she has 3 kids. She had 3 kids that she had to raise by herself, but she owned her home. She bought her own home, she owned her own home, and she continued to strive. She went back to school, and she got a certificate to work as a medical assistant, but also she's still in Detroit. So let me tell you the pitfalls of Detroit. You have to pay more for everything. And by that I mean the insurance that you pay on your house is more because you're in that neighborhood. The insurance you pay on your car is more. Just because there are fewer people on the tax base, you pay more for your water bill. You pay more for your gas. And I know you know all this, right? Because all of that makes a difference, a big difference. She pays off her house, but though I lived in New Jersey, my house value went up. Her house value goes down. So you buy your house, and most of the houses in Detroit, the value goes down. So you end up, you're making less, and everything is going up.
Yeah.
But your value of everything you have is going down. So you end up in a hole, no matter what you do. You end up in a hole. And so that to me,
That story sounds very much like a story I told in our last episode when we did our first one on tour. It's a lady who went through the same thing, but that's the story of so many of us.
that's right.
But here's the question I hear a lot from many people when you start talking about poor people or people born poor is, well, why don't they can get out of that. Why can't they do this and why can't they do that? And I always share with them it's not easy, and I share with my own coming out of a very poor area and being born poor. And I said I was one of the very lucky ones in my family, or a blessed one, I like to say it, and highly favored, because I was able to do it. But you know what? There are always other obstacles that have been in my family's way that somehow they have not been able to come out. Situations like what you just said about your sister, all kinds of things have happened. So what do you tell people when they say, well, why can't your sister do it? I don't care that a husband died and the neighborhood tax is going up and the food is going up and the car bill is going up. She can still do it. She can move somewhere else. What do you tell people when they say that? Because
I hear you.
when I hear them and I understand that.
I know you do.
Yeah. But what do you tell people?
That's, tell you the truth, because she likes it there. That's why. She likes being in Detroit. She likes that she has her own home and she paid off her home. She likes that. She is accomplished. She did do what she was supposed to do. She wants her city to recover. That's what she wants. She wants her city to recover. Yes, I remember just looking at, because when you look around and you see where cities are starting to revive again, what she's waiting for is, when is somebody going to come and revive my street? Because I've been here the whole time. And so new people can come in with new money and they get to be and renovate and be in the parts of Detroit where the water is, where be on the water, the river, and everything's wonderful. But yes, she did what she was supposed to do also. And she had difficulties. So honestly, she hasn't moved because she wants to live there, and recovery needs to come there too. Just like we pay for recovery everywhere else, I want to pay for recovery there.
How do we live in those areas when they're unsafe? And what can we do about that?
Well, the areas are unsafe because of limited resources, as we're saying.
Again, it goes back to limited
and they're
resources.
also unsafe because if we're going to, that cycle, we historically there have been a lot of deliberate mistakes made
Yes.
that have forced people to be desperate. Certainly that circle going from school to prison and then back into the community, because where else do you go? You come back to the community. And when you come back to the community, you have a lot of issues.
That's right.
You can't not have issues. And we also put a lot of constraints on you because we say you can't live here.
That's
we say
right.
you can't get food stamps.
Can't
we
vote.
say, yeah, you can't vote. We say you can't you can't live here, you can't get food stamps, and you can't get a job because nobody
Can't
wants
get
to
a
hire
job.
you. Okay?
That's right.
So now you are back in the community.
Yes.
What are you gonna do? I'm not justifying 1 minute
That's right.
people
That's
turn into crime. But I am saying that we all need to find a way to provide resources for them, to training and jobs. Most of them want training and jobs. Most of them do. It's just that if you are not helping them through the issues of that cycle, because that cycle will tear you down. You don't come out there saying, oh, I'm done finally, I did my time, now I'm ready to start a new life. No, you come out of there and you have some depression. You might have some anger. You might have some, your life has been put on hold and you've had to live a certain way. So I'm saying what makes it unsafe is that cycle that brings
Yes.
people back into the
I get it.
environment, okay? So if we can do something about that, then it doesn't have to be
And
unsafe.
what I see and what I hear you saying, and what I think I already know, is that if we all know that jobs
Right.
could help the poor and the people who are coming back to the community from being incarcerated, why aren't we doing it? We know then we can reduce crime by giving a person a job.
Right.
Because most of the crime that's created is because people need money. They
That's
need
right.
food.
That's
They need
right.
a place to live.
Right,
And if you know that that's what they need,
right.
and if a job can help reduce that, why aren't we doing it? I totally agree with you, and I think I've been watching a lot of these shows about helping people get back into society when
Right.
they come from prison. And I think those are good things, but we need to follow through with that. We need to make sure it happens. We need to start looking at them before they get out of prison to come back to a
That's
community.
right.
You can't wait until you get out here
That's right.
and then decide you want to do something. No, when you know a person is coming back to society, you start watching and looking at them and getting them trained and ready. Why can't industries, they set up industries just to hire some of these people who are coming
Totally
back?
worthwhile.
Because you know they've been incarcerated. Why are you going to put them through going to company after company after company, and then when you put on their felony, you're going to be turned down? Why
Exactly.
would you do that? So why aren't companies being developed to allow people to come and work and pay them a good wage, not just
Exactly.
minimum wage?
Yeah, why
people
should
can't
they
live
get
on
a good
minimum
wage?
Right,
Yes,
exactly.
why should they get a good wage?
So some of the other things that I know we want to talk about, I don't know if we have enough time now, but just you touched upon it when you talked about your sister in Detroit, about the cost of living in some of these poor neighborhoods, about the taxes being higher, the food being higher, your drivers, your insurance for your car. Why do you think, again, that is something that doesn't change? It's a poor neighborhood. Why should we pay more? They know we have fewer resources. We already have fewer resources, and we have probably less money. That doesn't even make sense to me, and I notice that when I'm in Alabama. I notice where I live, my insurance on my house
Yes.
is a lot less than where my sister and my nieces live.
Right.
And I always compare
Right.
the prices, and I still can't get it. Because I think they look at it and say, well, this is more of a crime area.
Yeah, that's exactly
Yeah,
what they do.
more of a crime area,
Yes.
and so it's going to cost less to keep this.
Yeah, but the poor people are paying that.
Mhm.
Like my sister, she's very responsible.
Yes,
She's
yes.
very responsible. And so as a result of wanting to live wherever she wants to live, she does end up having to pay more. And
Right,
yeah,
right.
I think that that's a big problem.
It is a big problem.
The insurance companies, just like any other insurance, the insurance in Detroit is out of this world. The car insurance,
Mhm.
out of this world. But you have to have a car. You know, so
Have to have a car.
yeah, you have to have a car. So yeah, I think when we if we understand that that's what happens, then I think we need to say, then, like for instance, food stamps. Why are we cutting back on food stamps? Why are we trying to cut out food stamps? Are you kidding me? Why are we trying not to feed people? I don't even care why a person is hungry. I don't care if you're hungry because you don't want to work. I don't care if you're hungry because you're sick or because you're mentally ill. I don't care why you're hungry.
And it's not-
I think we need to feed
Yeah.
anybody that's hungry.
And right, and it's
that's
not
part of
your job to determine
Right.
whether people deserve food stamps. If a person is hungry, they should eat.
I totally
There should
feel
not be
that
a
way.
hungry person.
No,
Not a hungry
No.
person.
this really shouldn't be. And I think that's the one thing people shouldn't have to fight for, even if you made some mistakes.
Right.
You shouldn't have to fight for that, because until you know that you're food secure, until then, you really can't think of anything else. Because that's what you're going to be trying to do. You're going to be trying to take care of that. And the same for housing.
But
If your house
it's
is
for everything.
insecure, then you're going to be trying to just figure out how to do that. And until you figure that out. And so I got to tell you, I think a lot of it's deliberate. If you don't understand how you are harming these poor people, because saying, oh, wow, we don't want to have to give them more food stamps because look at them, they have an iPhone, something like that, Well, guess
That's
what?
ridiculous. Yeah, that is so ridiculous.
They're human just like everybody
That's
else,
right.
and they deserve as to be a part of the whole community. They deserve to be able to have a phone. I really feel that way, because that's how we all communicate with each other. You'll be left behind. You can't say, I'm just going to give you this limited amount.
Yes.
We have to help people get out of the hole. We have to help them crawl out of that hole. You can't do it on your own.
You know what, Arlyce? I think we're going to keep crawling out of the hole in the next episode, because I believe we've run out of time. I think we may have run out of time.
I think you may be
so
right.
do you want to say a couple of parting words to our viewers?
Absolutely, absolutely. This was a great conversation, Velma, and one that I really felt was important to have. And I felt it was so important because just having this space to be able to speak our minds is so important to me. And I just want anybody listening to this, it doesn't matter which party you're in, what you belong to, whether you're liberal or you're conservative or you're Republican or Democrat, it doesn't matter. You are still an individual, you are still a human being, and you should still fight for the issues that matter to you. Because all of us have issues that matter to us just because we're human. And so I'm saying, please spend time to get to know whatever the other side is, and then really try to make a difference, because we all can make a difference.
And listen to your heart.
Yeah.
Listen to your heart. We'll see you the next time on Everyday Conversations with Velma and Arlyce. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.